Hello friends, in this video you will learn mainly about hierarchical clustering, its example, dendrogram and the types of hierarchical clustering. You should understand clustering first. So clustering is the task of dividing the population or data points into a number of groups such that the data points in the same group are more similar to other points in this group rather than those in the other group. So this is a cluster which is a collection of objects wherein all the objects are similar to one another and dissimilar to the objects in the other cluster. Now what is hierarchical clustering? It is basically a type of clustering technique only that divides the dataset into several clusters. For example, we have a set of four-wheelers wherein some cars are there, some quad bikes are there. We can divide these four-wheelers into two categories, let's say cars and quad bikes, and these cars can further be segregated into electric ones and non-electric ones, whereas these quad bikes can be categorized as two-seater or one-seater quad bikes. Basically, it provides certain hierarchy and keeps on separating the data into groups based on some measure of similarity and finding a way to measure how they are alike and different and further narrowing down the data. This type of clustering technique is also known as connectivity based methods. Another example of the same can be considered like how we order our files and folders in our computer by proper hierarchy. For example, this is my hard disk, and in my hard disk there are two drives, and in these two drives, depending upon the similarity of the files, one particular category of the files, I group the files in one folder. These files D, E, F are grouped in another folder, and similarly this G, H, I, J, K are categorized as in subfolders. Now next important term used in hierarchical clustering is dendrogram. Dendrogram is basically a tree-based structure of data points which is used to represent the results of the clustering. As you can see, this is a dendrogram, and this dendrogram represents the number of clusters which can be obtained by cutting the dendrogram at a desired level, and then each connected component forms a cluster. For example, this is a level wherein I want to find the number of clusters. So number of clusters at this level are 1, 2, 3 and 4. This first cluster carries these 3 points. The second cluster carries these 3 points. Third cluster carries this one single point, and the fourth cluster carries these 2 points. So this is how the dendrograms are used to represent the results of clustering. Now comes the types of hierarchical clustering. Hierarchical clustering is divided into two types, the agglomerative and the divisive one. The agglomerative type of clustering starts with all the data points, considering them as separate clusters and then aggregating them as the distance decreases. Like this, you can see it starts from step 0, then in step 1 it aggregates A and B, in step 2 it aggregates D and E, in step 3 it aggregates C, D and E, and in step 4 it is aggregating all the clusters together. So it uses a bottom-up strategy, that is the merging of all the data points together as one cluster. Whereas in divisive hierarchical clustering, all the data points are classified as single cluster. We start with this as step 0 and then partition as the distance increases, and it employs a top-down strategy. This dendrogram clearly shows agglomerative as bottom-up and divisive as top-down approach. In agglomerative type of hierarchical clustering, we start from the individual clusters and keep on merging them till we get the one cluster. And in divisive, we start with the one cluster and keep on dividing the group into 2, 3, 4 and so on number of clusters till we get the individual clusters. So that's all about the basics of hierarchical clustering, its types and the dendrograms. Thanks for watching.